I just noticed that every so often, it's not every day, it's not every week, but then something specifically comes from like Matt that's like a sideline hit with David Pakman, but there's no real explanation other than like a laugh and giggle thing, like a high school thing.
We just gave you
our
explanation. Matt's derision is completely warranted. And honestly, I would go harder if I wasn't trying to be nice.
3, 2, 1.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, just a little bit louder, please. Who's this? Where you calling from?
I hope this is better. This is Joe from Florida.
Joe from Florida, what's on your mind?
Hey there, Sam. So I had a couple questions coming from the very special state of Florida about maybe like a previous this sanctimonious fellow, but I guess he's not too important right now. But I have a different question that I got to see. It's been in my mind for the past couple of months from you guys, and I'm actually kind of happy that Matt kind of brought it up to me today to kind of point out that this is something that's been bothering me with you guys.
Okay.
Burying the lead, Jesus Christ.
Peace and love. I appreciate every one of you guys.
Here we go.
Okay.
And I agree with like almost everything you guys have to say.
Great.
But I'm kind of getting a little irritated by the little side swipes against David Pakman. I'm not a David Pakman stan, but I haven't seen you guys ever do a segment about
Dear David,
why
I
it
wrote
is.
you, but you still ain't calling. I left my cell, my pager, and my home phone at the bottom. I sent 2 letters back in autumn.
Yeah, dude, imagine saying you're not someone's stan, but then taking time out of your own workday to call into another show and complain about how they're making side swipes at this commentator in question. Like, I don't know, dude. Sounds kind of stanish to me, but
I wouldn't even call in if somebody had been taking side swipes at Gavin. I would be like, yeah, he's a grown up. He's taken plenty of side swipes himself. He could live with it.
You're probably like, you fucking deserved it, honestly.
I'll be like, Emma swiped at Gavin. Good. He's been barking up that tree for a while.
That Matt specifically does some like clotheslines from the back end there to just go boom. I'm gonna do a David Pakman thing, and then you usually hear somebody go like, "Oh, did he really do that? Oh wow, oh whoa, he did." But then I never see anything coming from you, Sam. Like you're tolerating it or you're ignoring it. So I just want to see like one of two things. Can you guys address what it is that you guys have against them? Because you guys used to be pretty friendly with them. Or
I mean, I'm friendly with Pakman.
It's like one disagreement or something.
I'm friendly with Pakman. I was just responding to an IM.
We had an IM.
Yeah, we didn't raise it.
Right.
I take IMs just like I take this call, and someone and I read it off, or I let them say what they want to say.
And when I think we were pretty, I'll just speak for myself because you mentioned me. I mean, I think we were pretty clear, and we haven't brought it up over and over again. Like you said, this brought it up because of an IM. But I had an issue when he's decided to not really talk about Israel-Palestine. But the extent that he did, he decided it was time to say Rashida Tlaib should apologize. I have a problem with entering this sort of discussion like that. And I said, we talked about it then, and that's where we left it.
I will say that just for the record, any liberal or progressive commentator that is not speaking every day or covering this genocide with the requisite outrage and facts that are proportionate to, you know, like the atrocities being committed is somebody that I don't necessarily think is a trustworthy source going forward. So I don't watch David Pakman, but based on what I've heard, that seems like very much in keeping with his coverage or lack thereof.
And that's why people IM about it, because other people notice it too. I don't know why you don't notice it.
And I will say,
let me help elaborate, I guess, why I don't notice it. So I do appreciate your guys' response. And again, peace and love. I really appreciate anything you guys can give as input on this, because I don't think I've ever quite maybe got what you guys are seeing. I do understand.
He hasn't got what they're seeing. Oh, he hasn't actually. He's been living under a rock. He hasn't been on the internet. Somehow he's familiar enough with the internet to know a niche political commentator like David Pakman, and he's familiar enough with the internet to decide to call in to the Majority Report and have this discussion. He's familiar enough with the internet to know how the entire nebulous of our, left podcasty sphere works. But oddly enough, he hasn't been on the internet enough to see one piece of footage about what's going going on in Gaza. He hasn't been on TikTok a single time. He's never gone on Twitter, apparently. In fact, he must not even watch the Majority Report because he hasn't seen what they've seen. Oh, if they've seen, oh, really? Because they've done in-depth coverage on this show, which you're apparently familiar with. You know what I mean? Documenting explicitly the horrors and the, United States direct involvement in the Israeli slaughter of children in mass. So odd that this guy would say he hasn't been exposed to the thing. Oh, that's interesting. Peace and love. I just haven't seen that. What you've seen. Like, what are you talking about, you moron?
Hear that David Pakman certainly has not talked about the Israel-Gaza situation like you guys have, which kudos to you guys for that. But he's focusing more on, typically, because I watch you guys both every day. So it's not like I'm only favoring one or the other. I definitely don't see him as a Jimmy Dore type. I definitely don't see him as someone
he's a Jimmy Dore type at all.
Just because he's making
I'm saying he's
or something,
by not covering.
I think that's made obvious too by the fact that they don't make like 5 videos a week about David Pakman. Like clearly they don't view him as being quite as nefarious as someone like Jimmy Dore, they've devoted endless videos to discussing and mocking. Same with us, by the way. He gives us lots of material in that regard. But yeah, like they barely talk about Pakman. As Sam just said, they only brought it up in the first place because they got an IM about it. I guess I wish they would do more anti-Pakman videos. I think it would be dope if the Majority Report was a little bit less hesitant to punch left or to go after people that are ostensibly also Democrats or liberals. It just makes it a little bit more spicy to see them contrast perspectives with someone like David Pakman than someone like Dave Rubin at this point. But I get it, that's their thing. They like to go after right-wing clowns, and they rarely talk about other lefties unless they're forced to. But yeah, when forced to, they're gonna be honest. They're not gonna lie about this guy.
Bring the genocide, he's apologizing for it.
I'm saying, like, even if he wants to ignore it because he knows that nobody wants to hear what he has to say on it, that's fine. If you are going to stick your oar in, don't make it to try to come after one of the few representatives who's good on the issue. I have a big problem with that.
If I could make a correlation with one thing, which I think I can tie this in maybe better, but maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong.
This guy thinks he sounds like a genius.
They had that pretty bad take on trans.
Guy thinks he's spitting so hard and he's about to mold their minds. Like you could tell this dude's been waiting in the wings. Just listen to the word choice that he goes for. It's like he's really reaching to the outskirts of his own vocabulary where he's like, oh, I'm pretty sure I could sneak this one in here, a little 5-cent word for him. Let him know I also been to an elite university.
Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. So like when the Young Turks, they had that pretty bad take on trans rights about, the Democrats should just drop that as an issue because it's not something that they can win. I would totally agree with you guys.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. Hold on. Okay, let me ask you a question.
You can certainly still appreciate them for the right things that they're still doing.
Yes, Anna and Jake have been great on
this. What is our criticism about
coverage? So
we have said anything except for the criticism of his Israeli coverage. And I have not watched any clips or whatnot. I just got an IM, and I will say this, and I feel quite confident in saying this. If Sam Harris is in a conversation with you and Israel or Islam or the Palestinians come up and you do not get into an argument with him, you are on the wrong side of the issue. Now, I know that's a little bit hyperbole, and I know it's not thoughtful, but I know where Sam Harris is in this. I could probably, if you gave me 5 minutes of just spewing words, I can without a doubt come up with a Sam Harris quote in that interview that I did not see, because I know where Sam Harris is on this. And if you do not have an argument with Sam Harris, then in my estimation on this issue, you are espousing bullshit. That's it. And if here's the problem. The real problem is you can't navigate this in your mind. It is too hard for you to be able to appreciate both of our content and reconcile this. This is a you problem, not an us problem. We're just responding to an IM about Pakman's coverage on a specific issue that I know that Pakman and I have had disagreements about this for over a decade. And you are just having trouble reconciling it. If you want to argue Sam Harris's position, then do it. If you want to argue a different position than we have, by all means, then do it. But to call up and say, why can't you agree with a different commentator because it's upsetting me that you're not agreeing with each other, I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, so
can we pause it really quick?
I'm not saying something that.
See, this is one of the things that's always kind of perplexed me. People are like, you guys are a drama channel. You guys only talk about the TMZ guard. Wow, this is gossip. But I'm like, the people who think that are basically this caller, right? This caller embodies that idea where it's like, oh, if we all are just nice to each other and we all agree, then the left wins. And it's like, why would I agree with somebody that's espousing Sam Harris, ultra right-wing, genocidal talking points? Why would I go happy-go-lucky, as Matt Leck pointed out, with somebody who's smearing Rashida Tlaib, saying that she needs to apologize for her very correct comments while she's under immense fire for standing up for Palestinian people when nobody else had the courage to? Almost no other person in all of the House or the Senate was willing to do so. Her and Ilhan Omar stood alone for much of the early days of the opposition. So why would I agree with you? How is that drama? That is me looking at your very bad political analysis, which has very real outcomes because of your very large audience, and saying that's bullshit. And the people who I know have love in their heart and empathy need to understand that this is not an acceptable position to hold, that this is going to lead to mass destruction, that this is going to lead to callousness, that this is going to lead to more displacement, more suffering, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Never going to lead to a solution unless that solution is Israel given, total carte blanche to do whatever they want with endless supplies of United States weaponry, right? But that's the level of analysis you have to have. You have to be this caller right here. So every time you guys see somebody in chat that's like, this is just the left infighting, it's like, no, dude, that's called having a discussion. This is called having a debate, and this is called fleshing out what the real position of solidarity is, which is standing with the Palestinian people and not some other rich asshole that does YouTube videos for a living.
Right. And again, their quote unquote attack against David Pakman was about as soft as you could possibly get. They didn't even actually put out a video responding to his pathetic softball interview with Sam Harris, where he just, agreed with all of the pro-genocidal rhetoric coming out of Sam Harris's mouth. They basically were just honest about the situation when asked by a caller. They did not go out of their way to attack this guy. And even if they had, that would be fine. I would, more than endorse it, like I said. But that's not even what happened. So yeah, this guy is just malding.
Cope.
That drastic. Like, I'm not saying I hate you because you don't agree.
What are you saying?
No, I don't care if you're saying I hate you.
What I'm attempting to convey, and I apologize, is I just routinely, the reason I'm bringing this up, like I originally said, like I would have had something with DeSantis I would have brought up instead, but I just noticed that every so often, it's not every day, it's not every week, but then something specifically comes from like Matt that's like a sideline hit with David Pakman, but there's no real explanation other than like a laugh and giggle thing, like a high school thing.
We just gave you our explanation. Matt's derision is completely warranted. And honestly, I would go harder if I wasn't trying to be nice. So, like, I mean,
I guess I'm asking, would you consider actually having a segment to where you're...
Yeah, come on the Vanguard, Emma. You can be as mean as you want.
Yeah, Emma would probably like to be as mean as she wants to both of us, but that's okay.
We can take it. We can take what we dish out. You know what I'm saying?
Explaining this so that it seems more like
that's what this call is.
Listen, our segment is every day when we talk about this issue. You can put it 2 plus 2 together. Look at his stance. Tell me his stance on Israel and Palestine.
I have no idea what his stance is on Israel.
Okay, then what are you talking about? You just told me you listen to him every day.
He doesn't really cover it because that's not his thing that he's...
That's a stance in and of itself.
Yeah, that's the problem, caller. That's kind of the problem. You look at David Pakman's channel and it's just nothing but fear-mongering about Trump and basically just trying to be a mini NBC or MSNBC, right? Like he doesn't cover anything serious. He doesn't cover anything substantive. And also he's not even that relevant anymore. Like our friend Josiah from Pondering Politics is beating his ass right now doing the same thing, but way better. No one cares about David Pakman anymore. Everyone agrees that he's smug, that he sucks, that he's unlikable and unserious. Like what is there even to defend?
Emma just say?
I understand that it is a problem. And
what did Emma just say?
Similarly to the Young Turks making a bad call.
What did Emma just say 2 minutes ago? What did Emma just say 2 minutes ago?
About what?
She said, if you are a liberal commentator, okay, this is not me saying this. Emma said this. If you're a liberal commentator and you're not covering it, then I feel that you are doing a disservice and you're providing misinformation. Now, you can agree or disagree with that statement, but she has addressed what you're talking about.
Could we agree that perhaps you guys are certainly much better and more equipped and more focused on this topic, where he's just shifting in a different way?
No, David has a different perspective on it than.
Yeah. So you guys are maybe noticing now in the chat why I wasn't a huge fan of our call-in show. It's like, how do you argue with this guy? Like, to me, the only thing that I would do, like, they're indulging this because it's good content. But imagine you this 5-6 times in a row. I'm just cutting the call off. I'm just like, yeah, all right, I'm going to lecture to this guy for 4 more minutes and tell him why he's wrong and then cast him off into the wind because he's not interested in a discussion. It's like a team sport for him. He's like, I like the blue team, but I also like the red team. And right now the red team and the blue team are fighting. So could you guys just say maybe, well, one of you guys is better at offense and the other one's better at defense, and then we can all play in the sandbox together?
We do. And he, I think, shies away from it because he doesn't want to talk about it. That's it.
And I honestly, again, I appreciate that you guys do this, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, isn't it good that you guys focus on this, but maybe it's also simultaneously good that he focuses on different stuff? No, I didn't see the Sam Harris interview.
I don't care. Listen,
I will see that later today or something.
We have different opinions on this show as to what David Pakman's responsibilities are in this realm. Emma has said as a blanket statement, she feels if you are in the progressive space that you should be coming out on this.
But you're not the Pope of the Democratic policy.
No, Emma just has an opinion.
Like, make fun of that.
I don't know.
Go on, Gavin. Sorry.
I was just going to say that I don't think Emma would call herself the Pope of Democratic Party politics. This is her show where she gets to give her opinion as an opinion commentator, right? Like, that's not her role. I don't think she's ever claimed that's her role. That's just ridiculous. But you go ahead, bro.
Oh, I was just going to say, this is 100% the time where you mute that guy because you can, and then you scream, but I have the microphone and you don't, which means you will listen to every last word I have to say. Adam Sandler style.
Just decide what someone has to decide to do.
No.
This is your show, so you decide what
I'm not making a proclamation.
What are you doing right now?
I am in a car.
You're the bishop calling in to say, you can't say you have an opinion about this. We answered an IM. You're acting like a child. You know what, dude?
No, again.
Are you a member of this program? Are you a member of this program?
That you guys make a clip about David Pakman.
Are you a member of this program?
And then you just move on.
Are you a member of this program?
We didn't just move on. I just said it. We just spent 10 minutes on the phone with you.
Right. I'm saying not from my call. I'm saying that's why I brought this topic up, is that it would come up.
Because I don't give a shit. We're covering our thing.
Why is it okay? Wait a second.
Why is it okay? This right now.
Why is it okay in your mind that David does not need to cover Israel-Palestine, but it's not okay that we're not covering David?
No, I'm sorry. That's not the framing I was going with. I apologize.
Well, I got news for you, dude. You've been on the phone for 10 minutes, and that's the framing that has really come across.
Okay, well, I'm not well versed in, obviously podcasting or radio shows. I mean, so I'm doing the best that I can.
You only listen to them every day.
You guys are just perhaps.
God, this guy's such a dork.
Yeah, and like whatever you think of Sam Seder, you agree with him, disagree with him, you have to admit he's a good debater. So I just don't understand why anyone would call into the guy's show expecting to get in an argument and be this unprepared. Like, what the fuck were you expecting?
I literally, before we debated Sam Seder once, I look at Gavin all confidently. I'm like, this guy's not changing my mind on shit. In the middle of the debate, I'm like, honestly, that's a fair point. I'm gonna go Switzerland now. You know what I mean? I'm like, the dude knows what he's doing. He forms a good argument, and you like and honestly, that was earlier in our career. I'm a little more experienced now as a broadcaster, but yeah, dude, this guy knows what he's doing, and honestly, he has all of the moral high ground in this argument. So, of course, he's going to obliterate this dude who just mauls. And it's crazy. He's like, oh, I don't know. That wasn't the point I was trying to make. It's like, bro, of course you were calling in to bitch about how they were mean one time in an IM response, or how Matt Leck made a side comment about David Pakman. And you are so obsessed and you have such a deranged parasocial relationship with this man. You had to call in and for 10 minutes on your drive to work, instead of listening to some tunes, instead of getting your news for the day, day, you were like, I am going to just white knight for this man who has no idea that I exist and never will. And if he did know I existed, wouldn't give a single
Perhaps David Pakman has.
Yes, that's right. Okay. I'm glad we could come to an agreement. All right, thank you. I'm sorry. Did I cut you off?
Yeah, so pretty unhinged stuff.